My name is Elena Carter. I'm 29. And if you've ever sat at a table full of people who already decided what kind of woman you are before you even opened your mouth, then you already know what it feels like when love turns into a performance. The kind where you're the punchline. I work as a software engineer for a mid-sized tech company. Not one of those household name giants people brag about at airports, but stable. Good benefits, good team, good money. 6 figures. The kind of salary that makes relatives suddenly remember your birthday. The kind that quietly paid for a life I thought I was building with the man I planned to marry. His name was Gavin. He was 27. He worked part-time as a yoga instructor. 2 studios, scattered hours, flexible schedule. The kind of job he loved because it made him feel like he wasn't trapped inside a system. He liked to talk about energy, alignment, manifestation. I used to think it was charming, like he had this softness I didn't have to fight for, like he was the calm to my constant thinking, solving, planning. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 6 months. And for most of that time, I told myself we were a team. I paid for about 80% of our expenses. Rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, even the car itself, technically, because I put the down payment on it when he said he needed reliable transportation for clients. At the time, I didn't call it supporting him. I called it investing, because that's what you do when you love someone. You build, you help, you carry weight when they can't. And I didn't mind carrying. Not until I realized he wasn't asking me to carry with him. He was asking me to carry him. There's context you need before I tell you what happened at that dinner. I'm close with my mom. My dad died when I was 16. Sudden, brutal. One of those phone calls that splits your life in half so cleanly you can still feel the line years later. My mother raised me and my younger brother alone after that. She didn't do it gracefully. She did it the way real people do it. Tired, stubborn, showing up anyway. She worked, she paid bills, she fixed what she could, and when she couldn't fix something, she learned. She's 62 now. She lives about 40 minutes away. I visit every Sunday for lunch. Not because she begs me to, because she never does. I go because I want to. Because she shouldn't have to sit alone in a house that still holds echoes. Because if her fence is falling apart, I'm going to fix it. If she has a doctor appointment, I'm going to take her. If her refrigerator dies, I'm going to help her replace it. I didn't think any of that made me weak. I thought it made me human. Gavin didn't see it that way. It started with small comments, the kind you can laugh off if you don't want to fight. Every Sunday, he'd say, like I'd told him I was flying to the moon, "Do you really have to go every single Sunday?" Or, "Can't she just hire someone to fix that? You're not her husband." He said that one once, casually, while scrolling his phone on my couch like he was reading the weather. I remember freezing in place with my keys in my hand, the sentence hitting my ribs like a knuckle. Not her husband. As if love is a job title. As if care has boundaries you're supposed to enforce. I would tell him she was my mom. I would tell him she raised me alone. I would tell him she didn't ask for much. And he would nod like he understood. But his eyes would do this thing, this tiny flicker of annoyance, like he was tolerating an inconvenience until he could renegotiate it. I told myself he was just adjusting. We were getting married, after all. People compromise. People learn each other's rhythms. That's what I told myself. Then came his parents' anniversary dinner. Last Saturday. They invited about 25 people. His parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, one of those loud families that fills a room with talking and clinking glasses and overlapping conversations. His mom had booked a private room at an Italian restaurant, white tablecloths, candles and little glass cups, a long table that made you feel like you were being displayed. The kind of setting where you're expected to smile and laugh at things you don't actually find funny. I wore a black dress, simple, nothing flashy. Gavin said I looked corporate, which he meant as an insult wrapped in a compliment. He wore the button-up shirt I'd bought him for interviews months earlier, the one he never used for interviews because he didn't want to attract corporate energy. But he wore it to impress his family. That should have been my first clue. We arrived to hugs and cheek kisses and forced warmth. "Engagement glow," his aunt squealed, squeezing my hands like she was assessing my grip strength. "Look at Gavin," his uncle said, clapping him on the back, finally settling down. I smiled. I played along. I let them call me future wife like it was already official, like nothing could shift, like words couldn't destroy a life. Dinner started with speeches, toasts, stories about Gavin as a kid. His cousin, Brandon, was the loudest person at the table. He had the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. He bragged about his promotion, his new Tesla, his upcoming vacation to Bali. Every sentence ended like a flex. Everyone praised him. His mom beamed. His dad laughed, like Brandon was proof their bloodline was winning. Gavin laughed too, not the warm kind. The kind that says, I'm safe because he's not talking about me. Then Gavin's aunt turned her attention down the table toward me. So, Elena, she said, smiling with that sharp curiosity people use when they want to measure your worth. What about you? What do you do? I opened my mouth. I didn't even get to finish the first word. Gavin leaned forward slightly, like he was helping. Oh, she works with computers, he said. It was dismissive, casual, like I was a teenager with a hobby. Before I could correct him, before I could say anything with shape and substance, he laughed. Not a nice laugh. Not a laugh that includes you. It was the mean-spirited kind that makes your stomach drop because you realize you're not standing beside him. You're standing in front of him. As a target. Oh, she does, he said, grinning. But honestly, she's kind of a little girl who still needs her mommy. The words fell on the table like a dropped glass. Clink. Silence spread outward in a ripple, like even the room itself stopped breathing. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, waiting for the moment he'd wink and say he was kidding. He didn't. He kept going. Runs to her every Sunday like clockwork, Gavin said, like he was describing an annoying habit. Can't make a decision without checking with her. I swear, sometimes I feel like I'm not marrying a woman. I'm marrying a child. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. I could feel the heat rush up my neck, crawling into my face. Across from me, his sister, Melissa, let out a little laugh. Not nervous, not uncomfortable. Amused. Good luck, she said, taking a sip of wine. Mama's girls never change. Gavin lit up at the support. Oh, I'll change her, he said, waving his hand like he was brushing off a minor issue. Once we're married, and I handle the finances, the Sunday mommy visits stop being a weekly event. Her mom can get holidays like normal people. He glanced around the table, enjoying the attention. And don't even get me started on how much money she wastes on her, he continued. New refrigerator here, car repairs there. Like, why is she still funding her mom's life? I heard someone's chair shift. I heard a cough. I heard Gavin's mother murmur something like, let's not... But it was too late. Because Gavin had found his stage. And I'm not competing with her mother for the rest of my life, he said, smiling like he'd just told a joke everyone should applaud. The table stayed quiet. Not because they were offended, because they were watching. They were waiting to see what I would do, how I would react, whether I would smile and accept it like a good, agreeable woman who knew her place. I sat there, fork still lifted, pasta cooling at the edges. And in my head, something clicked into place. This man who'd been living in the apartment I paid for, driving the car I helped buy, calling me a child, mocking me, in front of 25 people who would remember this moment longer than they remembered his parents' anniversary. My chest didn't explode. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my drink. I felt cold, clear, like the world had sharpened into focus after years of soft blur. I lowered my fork carefully. I looked at Gavin. He was smirking, confident. He thought he'd won something. He thought he'd put me in my place. You're right, I said quietly. His eyes lit up. See? He seemed to think. She's admitting it. The corners of his mouth lifted. See? Gavin said to the table, like he was addressing an audience. Even she knows. I nodded once. No, I said, still quiet. You're absolutely right. His smirk widened, and then I finished the sentence. I am just a little girl who needs her mommy, I said. And you know what? Little girls shouldn't get married. The smile on his face didn't drop immediately. It flickered first. Confusion. Then irritation. Like he couldn't compute that I wasn't playing along. I pushed my chair back slowly. The scrape against the floor sounded too loud in the silence. I stood. I placed my napkin on the table with a calmness that felt almost unreal. And I turned toward his parents. Thank you for dinner, I said, polite, controlled. Happy anniversary. His mother's mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to stop me, but didn't know how. His father stared at his plate. Gavin's sister whispered something under her breath, something that sounded like dramatic. I didn't look at them again. I walked out. I didn't run. I didn't stomp. I walked through the restaurant like I wasn't the woman who'd just been gutted in public. By the time I reached the parking lot, my phone was already buzzing. One message after another. Gavin, baby, come back. I was just joking. You're embarrassing me. If you leave, we're done. I got into my car, hands steady on the steering wheel. I watched the messages stack up like a tantrum written in real time. And I texted back once. We're already done. Then I drove straight to the only place that had ever felt like the truth. My mother's house. My mom didn't expect to see me that night. It was just after 8 when I pulled into her driveway, headlights cutting across the familiar shape of the house I'd grown up in. The porch light was on, like it always was. She never turned it off before bed. Said it made the house feel less empty. I stood there for a second with my hand on the steering wheel, engine still running, breathing through the tightness in my chest. I hadn't cried yet. That scared me more than if I had. When I knocked, she opened the door almost immediately, cardigan pulled around her shoulders, reading glasses perched halfway down her nose. "Elena," she said, surprised, "is everything okay?" That was the thing. If she'd asked what happened, I might have broken. But she didn't. She just stepped aside and let me in. "You hungry?" she asked gently, already turning toward the kitchen. "I made soup earlier. It's probably still warm." I shook my head. "Maybe later." She nodded like that was fine. Like I hadn't just shown up unannounced on a Saturday night with my eyes too bright and my shoulders too tight. She poured me tea instead. Chamomile. Honey already stirred in, because she knew I never added enough myself. We sat at the kitchen table in silence for a while. The old clock on the wall ticked steadily, grounding in a way no mindfulness app ever had. Finally, I spoke. "He humiliated me," I said. Just that. Not Gavin did this or this happened. Just the truth. My mom didn't gasp, didn't clutch her chest, didn't launch into anger. She wrapped both hands around her mug and waited. So I told her about the dinner, the laughter, the way his sister joined in, the way he talked about controlling my money like it was already a signed agreement, the way he said he'd cut her off like she was an expense line he planned to eliminate. I told her everything. When I finished, the kitchen felt heavier, like the walls themselves had leaned in to listen. She didn't speak right away. She stared into her tea, jaw set, eyes unreadable. Then she exhaled slowly. "I never liked him," she said. The words landed quietly. No drama, no triumph. Just honesty. I looked up at her. "Why didn't you say anything?" She met my eyes. "Because you loved him." That simple. "You seemed happy," she continued, "and you were grown. I didn't want to be the mother who interfered. I figured if it was something you needed to see, you'd see it on your own." I swallowed. "You really never liked him?" She shook her head. "Not as a partner for you." "Why?" She thought for a moment, like she was choosing her words carefully. "He never helped," she said finally. "Not once. Every time he came for Sunday lunch, he'd sit there like a guest. Never offered to clear a plate, never brought anything, not even bread." I pictured it instantly, because it was true. "And when you hugged me goodbye," she added, softer now, he'd roll his eyes. He thought he was being subtle. He wasn't. I felt something crack open in my chest. "All small things," she said, "but small things tell the truth faster than big speeches." I stayed the night, in my old room. The one with the slanted ceiling and the window that still stuck when you tried to open it. The posters were gone, the shelves mostly empty, but the bones of it were the same. I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, phone face down on the dresser. I didn't answer Gavin's calls, didn't read the messages that kept coming. I slept better than I had in months. When I woke up Sunday morning, the clarity was brutal. It wasn't relief. It was precision. I knew exactly what I needed to do. Not dramatically, not loudly, cleanly. By Monday, my decision wasn't emotional anymore. It was logistical. Monday morning, I called in sick. Not because I was falling apart, because I needed uninterrupted time to dismantle a life that no longer fit me. I waited until 10 o'clock, late enough that Gavin would be deep into his mid-morning yoga class, phone silenced, ego fed by compliments from people who believed calm breathing counted as a career. The apartment looked the same as always when I unlocked the door. Too clean, too curated, plants I'd bought, furniture I'd paid for, a space that felt neutral in the way hotels do, pleasant, but never fully yours. I didn't hesitate. I went straight to the bedroom and pulled my suitcase from the closet. I packed only what was mine. Clothes, shoes, work laptop, personal documents, the folder with my passport and birth certificate, chargers, jewelry I actually wore. The couch stayed, the dining table stayed, most of the shared furniture stayed. I wasn't interested in inventory warfare. I wanted distance. But when I reached the living room, my eyes landed on the television. 65 inches, OLED. Bought 3 months ago, after Gavin insisted movies were important for connection. I unplugged it without guilt. Petty? Maybe. Accurate? Absolutely. I left the key on their counter with a note. Short, neutral, almost professional. Rent is paid through the end of the month. Utilities and internet are in my name. I'll be canceling them Friday. Take care. No insults. No explanations. I loaded the car and drove straight back to my mom's house. She'd already cleared the basement rec room. Didn't ask why. Just handed me a spare set of sheets and said, "We'll figure it out." By the time Gavin came home, I was gone. The calls started immediately. 18 in the first hour. Texts followed, stacking on top of each other like panic had learned to type. "Where are you? This isn't funny. You can't just leave. I was joking. You're overreacting. Please answer. Then the tone shifted. How am I supposed to pay rent? You're being unfair. You're being financially abusive. That one actually made me laugh. Out loud. I'd been covering nearly everything for 2 years. I responded once. We're done. Then I blocked his number. Blocking Gavin didn't end the noise. It just changed the pitch. By Monday afternoon, the messages started coming from unfamiliar numbers. New area codes. Unknown contacts. Friends' phones. I ignored them all. By Tuesday morning, the first voicemail slipped through. Long, shaky, performed. Elena, please, this is getting out of hand. You know I didn't mean it like that. I was just trying to fit in with my family. You know how they are. That was the first time he blamed them. By noon, it shifted again. You're punishing me. This isn't about what I said. This is about control. You're trying to teach me a lesson. I didn't respond. Because here's the thing I'd learned very clearly in the last 48 hours. People who humiliate you publicly don't get to dictate the terms of your forgiveness privately. Wednesday was when he escalated. I was at work, back at my desk, headset on, deep in code, when my phone buzzed nonstop in my bag. I stepped into a conference room and checked it. 7 missed calls. 1 voicemail. Elena, I'm downstairs. My stomach dropped. Security called a minute later. There's a man in the lobby asking for you, the guard said. He doesn't have a badge. I don't want to see him, I said immediately. Understood. Gavin waited 3 hours. I watched him through the glass wall of the stairwell as I slipped out the back exit. He was pacing, phone in hand, posture rigid, like someone who couldn't believe a door wasn't opening just because he was knocking. I worked from home the rest of the day. That evening, his father called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Elena, he said, voice tired, measured. It's Frank. I'm not calling to defend what Gavin said. That was out of line. I exhaled slowly. Thank you. But, he continued, walking out on a 3-year relationship over 1 comment seems extreme. There it was. I stayed calm. Frank, I said, it wasn't 1 comment. It was him telling your entire family that he planned to control my finances and cut my mother off once we were married. Silence. I didn't hear that part, he said finally. I was in the kitchen. Ask your wife, I said. Ask Melissa. They all heard it. Another pause. She can't afford the apartment alone, he said quietly. I know, I replied. He'll have to make adjustments. You're really done? He asked. No counseling? No, I said, because this wasn't a mistake. It was a preview. He sighed. I can't say I blame you. That night, Melissa texted me. She's moving back home this weekend. Hope you're happy. I typed back once. I'm getting there. Thursday morning, I canceled the wedding. Not emotionally, administratively. I called the venue first. Calm voice, clear explanation. No details beyond the engagement has ended. They were professional, sympathetic, efficient. The photographer next, same response. The caterer was the only complication. The deposits totaled just over $8,000. I'd paid most of it. $7,000 from my account, $1,500 from his. The venue and photographer refunded my portion minus a small cancellation fee. The caterer couldn't refund, but they offered to transfer the credit to a different event. So I did. I moved it to my mom's 63rd birthday party. 60 people, full dinner, open bar. When I told her, she cried, not because of the food, because she finally understood how serious I was about starting over. Gavin did not take the news well. He called from his father's phone. I hadn't blocked that number yet. You stole our wedding money, he said without preamble, voice sharp with accusation. I withdrew my contributions, I replied evenly. Your portion is untouched. The venue says they need $5,000 more or they'll cancel. Then you should pay it. With what money? I paused. The money you were planning to control, I said. Remember? Silence. You're doing this to hurt me. No, I said. I'm doing this because it's my money. This is about your mother, he snapped. She never liked me. My mother hasn't said a word about you, I replied. She didn't need to. You handled that yourself. He hung up. 20 minutes later, the venue called to confirm the cancellation. The photographer followed. The caterer called last to thank me and go over menu details for the birthday. That afternoon, the messages started coming from his friends. Not to reconcile, to ask for money. Apparently, without me quietly covering his share, group dinners had become awkward. One woman actually sent me a payment request. $300, labeled, your portion from last summer. I declined, with a note. Little girls don't have money. Ask your family. By the weekend, Gavin had found a new outlet. Social media. He didn't name me at first. He didn't have to. Anyone who mattered already knew. The posts were vague, heavy with implication. Sometimes you give everything to someone who never learned how to grow up. Or Emotional dependence isn't love, it's avoidance. Friends commented with supportive emojis, heart reacts, fire symbols, the digital equivalent of nodding along without asking questions. Then someone asked about the wedding. That's when the story sharpened. According to Gavin, I was emotionally unavailable, overly attached to my mother, afraid of independence, a woman who mistook obligation for maturity. He framed himself as patient, enlightened, a man who tried to help me become an adult. I didn't respond. I didn't post. I didn't correct him publicly. I screenshotted everything. Because silence, I'd learned, makes liars sloppy. Monday morning, the calls started again. Not from him, from employers. "Hi, this is Danielle from Northside Wellness," one woman said. "Gavin listed you as a professional reference." I closed my eyes. "I've never worked with Gavin professionally," I said calmly. "We were in a personal relationship." "Oh," she said, startled. "He listed you as his former supervisor." "That's incorrect," I replied. "I can't speak to his work performance." 3 more calls came that week. Same pattern, same correction, same outcome. He didn't get the jobs. His father called again on Thursday. "He says you're sabotaging him," Frank said, sounding exhausted. "Frank," I replied, "listing me as a professional reference without asking was his choice. I told the truth." "He's desperate," Frank said. "Couldn't you say something positive?" "About work I've never seen?" I asked. "You're asking me to lie." Silence. "I can't do that," I said gently. After we hung up, I realized something had shifted. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. It was about consequences. And for the first time, Gavin was meeting them without my wallet cushioning the fall. Sunday afternoon, I was in the kitchen with my mom, chopping vegetables for soup when the doorbell rang. She glanced at the clock. Too early for the neighbors. I felt it before I saw it. That tightening, that quiet warning in the body. "I'll get it," she said. Through the doorway, I heard voices. Multiple. Familiar in the worst way. "Mrs. Carter, we need to talk to Elena." My mom didn't raise her voice. "She doesn't want to see you," she said calmly, "and this is my home." "This is between me and her," Gavin said. "You don't need to be involved." That's when I stepped into the hallway. "It's okay, Mom," I said. "I can handle this." They were all there. Gavin, his parents, and his sister Melissa. 4 of them standing on the porch like they'd coordinated outfits and intentions. An ambush disguised as concern. Gavin looked different. Thinner. Eyes rimmed red. He'd clearly rehearsed this. "Elena," he said softly, "I'm here to apologize." I crossed my arms. "Go on." "I was wrong," he said quickly. "I was nervous at the dinner. I'd had wine. I was trying to keep up with my family, and I said things I didn't mean." "You had 1 glass," I replied. He flinched. "Okay, but I felt insecure. Brandon was bragging, and I panicked." "So you humiliated me," I said, "to feel better about yourself." "I didn't mean it like that." "Which part didn't you mean?" I asked. "Calling me a little girl? Planning to control my finances? Cutting my mother off?" He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Melissa stepped forward. "Oh my God, it was just talk. Everyone vents about their partner to family." "At a formal dinner?" I asked. "In front of 25 people?" "That's normal," she said defensively. My mom spoke then. "Normal people don't mock the person they claim to love," she said evenly. Patricia, his mother, tried next. "Elena, Gavin loves you. He made a mistake." "I've forgiven him," I said. "That doesn't mean I'm taking him back." Frank finally spoke. "What would it take? Counseling? He'll go." "There's nothing he can do," I said, "because I believe him. He showed me who he is." Gavin's composure cracked. "You're ruining my life over 1 comment." My mom stepped closer to the door. "You ruined your own life," she said, voice steady. "You had a good woman, and you mocked her for loving her family." She looked at Gavin. "What kind of husband would you have been?" Silence. "Please leave," she said, "and don't come back." They did. Gavin crying. Patricia furious. Frank defeated. Melissa muttering about control and manipulation. When the door closed, my mom reached for my hand. "You did the right thing," she said. For the first time since the dinner, I believed it. The fallout didn't explode all at once. It unraveled. Slowly, publicly, inevitably. Over the next few weeks, the story kept trying to rewrite itself online. Gavin moved back in with his parents the following weekend. I didn't hear it from him. I heard it from social media first, an Instagram story posted at an angle that tried very hard to look intentional. A photo of his childhood bedroom desk, a caption about resetting, healing, and returning to family. The comments were supportive at first. "You've got this. Proud of you for choosing yourself. Sometimes going back is the only way forward." Then someone asked, "What about the wedding?" He answered with a single sentence. "Sometimes you outgrow people." That was when the tone shifted. Not dramatically, not cruelly, just colder. because people had been at that dinner. They remembered, and memory is harder to edit than captions. Behind the scenes, things were deteriorating faster. Without my income cushioning his lifestyle, reality moved in aggressively. The apartment he'd loved because it felt expansive turned into a financial sinkhole overnight. His parents helped him break the lease. He complained about it constantly to anyone who would listen. The same friends who used to text me restaurant suggestions started texting him excuses. Group dinners stopped happening. Weekend trips were quietly canceled. Without someone automatically covering his share, choices had to be made. And apparently, none of them wanted to make them. One of his friends reached out to me, not for money this time, but information. "Did you really pay for most of that stuff?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. She didn't respond. The friend group didn't implode dramatically. It just drifted away, because convenience isn't loyalty. Meanwhile, my life did something unexpected. It stabilized. Without Gavin's expenses, I was saving nearly $2,000 a month. I paid off my car early. I opened an investment account I'd been postponing. I helped my mom replace the old windows in the house. Energy efficient, quieter, warmer. She kept commenting on how peaceful the living room felt now. Living with her wasn't suffocating. It was calm. We had separate spaces, separate routines, shared dinners without tension. I cooked 3 nights a week. She cooked 3. Sundays, we ordered takeout and watched old movies. It felt adult, balanced. Then the collateral damage spread. Brandon, the cousin whose bragging had set the whole thing in motion, got dumped. His girlfriend had been at the anniversary dinner. She told him she couldn't unsee what she'd watched. "I saw how your cousin treated the woman who loved her," she said. "And you act exactly the same way. I'm not signing up for that." Brandon blamed Gavin. They stopped speaking. Frank told my mom later, during a window installation, "We raised him wrong. He looked tired." Patricia coddled him. "I excused it, and you financed it," he said. "Now we're all paying for it." Except I wasn't. I was finally out. 6 weeks after the anniversary dinner, my life didn't feel dramatic anymore. It felt quiet, not the hollow kind. The kind that settles in after a storm passes and you finally hear yourself think again. Gavin was still living with his parents. I knew because Frank mentioned it casually one afternoon while fixing a loose railing on my mom's back steps. "She's charging him rent now," he said, shaking his head. $500 a month. He acts like she's stealing from him." I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Apparently, he expected his mother to do his laundry, cook his meals, clean his room. When asked to help around the house, he threw what Frank described as full-body sulks. "He says he's being controlled," Frank added dryly. "Irony's not his strength." Gavin's social media presence shifted again. The yoga poses disappeared. So did the inspirational quotes. They were replaced by posts about corporate slavery, toxic productivity, and how society punishes sensitive men. Still no accountability, just new villains. Meanwhile, I was thriving in ways that didn't photograph well. Then my mom had knee surgery. Routine, planned, nothing dramatic. I took time off work to help her during recovery. Hospital chairs aren't built for comfort, but I sat in one anyway, answering emails between check-ins, refilling her water cup, reminding her to take it easy. That's where I met Mark. He was a physical therapist, early 30s, calm voice, kind eyes, no performative charm. We talked in the hallway while my mom slept, about recovery timelines, about work, about how exhausting hospitals are even when everything goes right. I didn't flirt. Neither did he, which was refreshing. A few days later, he asked if I wanted coffee. No speeches, no energy talk, no wounded ego wrapped in philosophy. Just, "I've enjoyed talking to you. Would you like to continue over coffee?" We took it slow. He had his own apartment, his own money, his own routines. We split dates evenly without negotiation or resentment. When I told him I visited my mom every Sunday, he smiled. "That says a lot about you," he said. "People who respect their parents usually respect their partners too." The sentence I needed gently. No pressure, no judgment. Just recognition. Sometimes he came to Sunday lunch, and when he did, he helped cook. My mom noticed. She always notices. I found my own apartment last week. 2 bedrooms, good light, reasonable rent. My mom pretended she wasn't sad to lose her live-in help, but she made me promise to still come every Sunday. I did, and I will. The money I used to spend on Gavin now goes somewhere better. Half into savings, half toward helping my mom retire early. Not because she needs it, because she's earned it. She'll retire at 64 instead of 67. The woman Gavin wanted me to cut off. The woman he thought was a burden. She's finally getting rest. Gavin texted me once last week. Just one message. "I hope you're happy," I replied honestly. I am. I hope someday you will be too. He blocked me after that, and that was that. Looking back, that anniversary dinner was the best thing that could have happened. He didn't just embarrass me, he revealed himself. No years of marriage before the mask slipped. No children trapped between loyalty and control. No messy divorce. Just a clean break from someone who saw my love for my family as weakness. The little girl who needed her mommy? She grew up just fine. Turns out loving your family isn't immaturity. It's strength. And anyone who tries to take that away from you isn't a partner. They're a warning.